When people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
America is spiritually sick. This moment marks an important transformation in American history. People reporting on this event can't seem to help using the name of his own organization to describe it. This is a turning point in the USA. But toward what? The veil has fallen, and we're beginning to see the fruit of years and years of polarization and extremism in this nation. Will this be the turning point into civil war? No, it will not. But what it spells for this nation is almost as bad, and it is setting the stage for a possible future war in this country. Civil war has 3 criteria as defined by the Correlates of War Project. The first is that it's an organized armed conflict within a state with the military and government involved. Second, it has to have significant casualties, with 1,000 in a year given as the threshold between war and low-intensity conflict. And third, it has to have political aims, such as overthrowing the government, seizing territory, or securing concessions politically. Falling short of any of these lands us in the low-intensity conflict stage, which is political violence above what is considered normal competition, but not meeting the threshold of conventional war. Before the American Civil War, the United States experienced a period of low-intensity conflict over the issue of slavery, particularly in the Kansas Territory during the 1850s. That's a period known as Bleeding Kansas. This conflict arose after the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which allowed settlers to decide whether Kansas would enter the Union as a free or slave state. And this led to clashes between pro-slavery border ruffians, as they were called, from Missouri, and the anti-slavery Free Staters. A key figure in this struggle was John Brown, an abolitionist who led brutal raids, most notably the Pottawatomie Massacre in May of 1856, where he and his followers killed 5 pro-slavery settlers. Now, these were sporadic and localized acts of violence, using guerrilla tactics and raids, and this exemplifies low-intensity conflict to a T. They were irregular forces rather than formal armies. The violence escalated tensions that eventually led to the Civil War. Brown's later raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859 further intensified national divisions. That was just 1 year and 5 months before the famous Battle of Fort Sumter, which officially kicked off the kinetic hostilities of the American Civil War. Also during this time, politicians were getting physical with each other too. I'm sure you've heard the famous story about the caning of Senator Charles Sumner by Representative Preston Brooks in 1856. Sumner, an anti-slavery Republican, delivered a fiery speech condemning slavery and insulting pro-slavery figures, prompting Brooks, a pro-slavery Democrat, to beat him unconscious with a cane on the Senate floor. The attack, which left Sumner severely injured, polarized the nation. Northerners saw it as proof of Southern barbarism, while some Southerners celebrated Brooks. Does that sound familiar? Other incidents included an 1858 House brawl over the Kansas policy, where dozens of representatives traded punches, and the threats of duels or armed confrontations among congressmen in the 1850s. These clashes, driven by the slavery debate, reflected the same low-intensity conflict seen in Kansas, with ideological battles turning violent and foreshadowing the coming Civil War. The war that ensued was a land war, North versus South. The battle was for territory and to force political concessions. The federal government was a belligerent, and most notably, hundreds of thousands of Americans tragically lost their lives. It was a civil war. We have been in a low-intensity conflict in America for years now, even before COVID. It's been at least a decade now. There have been numerous politically motivated deaths, including prominent politicians. There have been assassinations and attempts. We're already here. So, is Charlie Kirk the spark? Is he the Archduke Ferdinand of our day? No. It's still citizens fighting. But wait, Civil, you might say. Don't you realize that this hit was done by the CIA or Mossad, or pick your favorite three-letter agency? You know, I don't deny that MK Ultra is a real thing, but it's too convenient to just make that link without any direct evidence, and moreover, doing so really neglects the fact that people don't want to face, that there are millions of people in this country that would gleefully end your life if they had the means and the courage to do so. And this one instance lifts the veil and shows what is going on under the surface. One person actually did it, and millions cheered. It's not a territorial war. There aren't even political concessions being demanded here. And there certainly haven't been 1,000 deaths in a year of direct political violence. But more importantly, look at this man. He taught a different type of revolution, one of radical family-centeredness. His followers are not going to be strapping on vests and doing you know what. His followers are out there having babies right now. There's a scene in the Hunger Games where Katniss lays Rue to rest and then salutes the hidden camera, and it's a powerful moment that resonates in the hearts of the people. District 11 immediately erupts in a revolution. Many people die in a vain attempt to resist the evil. Barely 48 hours after her husband was brutally killed in front of her eyes, Erica Kirk quietly addressed the nation. Did she call for revolution? Did she stir us up to rise up against our oppressors? She reminded us that nothing is more beautiful than having a wife and children. She reminded us that Christ loves the church like a husband loved his wife and lays himself down for her. She reminded us to go join a church. Evil hates being, it hates beauty, it hates being beautiful. That's why all its followers are so ugly. It has recruited many demonic forces in the past decade, and now that they are losing the ideological war for the mind, they are getting violent. As one church father put it, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. I hope that God's enemies miscalculated here, and God's sheep see this event and flock to him in droves. These days, people come to God because they see evil first and want to be for whatever is opposed to that. I do believe that, unfortunately, there will be civil war in this country years from now, but I don't think now is the moment. I think we should be training for it to deter it. Just like the US military is preparing for war in the Pacific in hopes of deterring war in the Pacific. We do not want to see civil war in this land. We do not want to see dead Americans in the streets. And I guess that's the reason I'm making this video, is because I saw so many people just calling openly for civil war, and they don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Does anyone else have any other suggestions? Why can't we just have one big fight? Everyone's pissed off.
This will not stop until they are silenced, until they are incarcerated, until they are deported, until they cease to hold the positions that they do, or until they cease to be here. They are an existential threat to the Republic, to our freedom, to our children's lives.
We've got to do something.
And so we shall. Now we sound the drums of war.
But you do need to prepare and get ready for what's coming. It's counterintuitive, but you need to be able to fight a war so that you know how to stop it from ever happening. And that's what this channel is all about. I cover many of the neglected sides of the Second Amendment, such as comms, intelligence, surveillance, engineering. To understand the times that we're in now, I recommend you check out my hour-long documentary on World War III and fifth-generational warfare, which revolve around civilians in a big way. Stockpiling guns and ammo aren't going to cut it for the coming conflict. You need a team. You need soft skills. You need leadership skills. Our enemies want us atomized, separated, hiding in our own bunkers with 100,000 rounds of ammo and several metric tons of MREs. They want us doing that because we're not fighting in a way that terrifies them. The words we have are powerful, and when we stop speaking the truth, they win. And most importantly, link up with like-minded people, with like-minded believers. Form networks with them. Form intelligence sharing networks with them. Check out my video on building the new civil defense and how to start new groups. But no matter what, do something to get ready. And most importantly, get right with God. If we pray to Him and humbly ask for wisdom, there's no telling what could happen in this nation. We're very spiritually sick, but Jesus is the great physician. He didn't come to save the healthy, but He came to save the sick, and we need Him right now. So, God bless America. And that's all I have. Charlie Delta Echo out.